On this episode of The Eternities, the online entrepreneur and podcast host, Johnny FD.
I thought I had discovered paradise. I thought I had just, I got out of the rat race. I thought I had achieved the dream. I had moved to a tropical, basically a tropical island where people go to retire and be happy. I had a dream job where all I did was hang out with tourists, go scuba diving, have beers with them and watch sunsets. I wasn't happy, and I realized I was like, I think I've built another prison around myself. I know some people listening to this might be angry, thinking you twat, just be happy. But what it was is I realized I couldn't get off the island.
Johnny FD is an online entrepreneur, a location-independent digital nomad. After a 3-week vacation to Thailand in 2008, he left his home and corporate job in Los Angeles and bought a one-way ticket back to Thailand. Eventually, he hit upon a strategy for creating online businesses, which now enables a dream lifestyle of leisure and travel. He is the host of the Travel Like a Boss podcast and was the organiser of the recent Nomad Summit in Chiang Mai, a free day of talks given by highly successful nomads. I started the interview by asking him how he thought the summit went.
So the summit went brilliantly, and especially because we had no expectations. It was a 10-day thought to implementation. And worst comes to worst, we were thinking, even if we just got a room full of 20 people and we just sat and bounced ideas off each other and helped each other and each stood up for 10 minutes, 20 minutes and talked, I would have been satisfied with that. The fact that it turned into a big organized event, got sponsored by a big company, we had a proper seminar room, we had 10 speakers that were actually very well prepared, probably much more prepared than I was. And we had 150 people show up, and we had people volunteer to take great photos and videos. It ended up really just beyond expectations.
So what was the aim of the day? I mean, as far as I know, you were in a bar, you all met up, and then you had this idea, why not meet up somewhere quieter where we can actually get something done? Definitely,
and I figured I was in a room full of 120, I was at a bar with 120 people who I can learn something from, and every single person there can teach you there's something. The fact that we all at least are making enough money to be able to travel, and we're all in a foreign country, we all took that first step where we have the confidence, basically the balls to travel and give this alternative lifestyle a chance, means that everyone there has something to teach each other. And my idea was, why not facilitate a place where we can learn from each other.
Yeah. So how did you go about getting the speakers for that day?
It started with, me just reaching out to my closest circle. I just asked myself, who's actually very successful? Because even though I would have loved all 150 people to go up and talk, we just don't have the time for that. So I decided, at first I wanted 14 20-minute TED-style talks, because I think nobody wants to listen to someone for an hour if it's a topic that you're not currently focused on.
Right.
Maybe it's something that you would benefit from 2 years from now, but if it's not something you're interested in right now, 20 minutes is kind of the time span where you can still enjoy it and learn, the basics, but not get bored. Yeah. For time constraints, I realized that 10 speakers was actually more than enough. 14 sounded good on paper. But having 10, 20-minute speeches still ended up being a full day. Yeah. And I reached out to everyone I knew in Chiang Mai who was making more than $10,000 a month online, either through a passive income or some kind of online business. And I figured these people would probably have the best story to tell. They've already proven their own success. So, if they can just share what they've done, people would learn from it.
And what's been the feedback so far from people that came along?
People were blown away, especially because a lot of people didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what to expect. So when the fact that they showed up and it was an actual organized event and not just, another 120 people at a bar, people were impressed with that. But I think what people were most impressed with is that every single speaker, literally all 10 of the speakers, they went out there and poured their hearts out. They gave out, literally thousands of dollars worth of information. And most of these conferences and summits do charge thousands of dollars. So the fact that they were willing to come for free, that we were willing to organize it for free, people were blown away. And the videos that we recorded, we could easily package that and sold it as a course or get VIP access, and we could have easily charged $100 for that as well. And the fact that we've decided to release them for free, I think that also people are going to be impressed.
Are they available yet?
They're available as of today. You can either go to nomadsummit.com and you can click any speaker and watch their video, or if you want to go to my blog, johnnyfd.com, I made a chronological post so you can watch them in order. Just because somebody had, I didn't even think of it, but somebody today had messaged me saying, is there any way we can get the speaker schedule? Because I think it would make more sense if we watched it in order, especially because my talk was the last talk and I wrapped up the whole summit and I talked about how you can implement from each person's strategy. So it actually does make sense to watch it in order.
Yeah. So how long have you been a digital nomad for?
So I've been traveling now for the past, I keep telling people I've been traveling for the last 2.5 or 3 years. My girlfriend made me do the math one day and I realized I left in 2008 and it's 2015 now. So it's technically been 7 years, or at least 6.5 years. But I didn't actually take the title digital nomad because I never made any money online. I made money as a scuba diving instructor. I did Muay Thai for a while, which is Thai kickboxing. And I would make, I don't know, maybe $20 a month from my blog. I had a Muay Thai blog. And it wasn't until a year and a half ago that, actually almost exactly a year and a half to 2 years ago, I guess closer to a year and a half, did I actually start making money online. And now I guess I've taken the term digital nomad.
So what were you doing before 2008, back in, where was it, in San Francisco?
I was in California, worked for a big corporation. It's called Honeywell, big American company. I was an account executive, whatever that means. Basically, I worked in Cubicle and pushed around paper, did reports. And I thought I was excited, I was happy. I was like, this is what America is built on. Go to college, get a 4-year education.
It's a nice cubicle.
It was the only cubicle I've ever been in, so honestly, I was actually very excited, especially for the first year. I was proud of working there. I was proud that I got to wear a suit and tie to work. I was proud that, I had a second-hand Lexus that I drove to work, and I was proud that I was with this big company that had a 401k and a retirement plan. And about a year and a half or into it, I showed up every day, but mentally I checked out. I spent all my time on forums, reading, or buying things online, almost like Christmas shopping every day, knowing that if I went home, I would have something waiting for me, have some excitement. And it got so bad that, even though I didn't even enjoy drinking, and I haven't had, so now I actually completely stopped drinking, but at that time I was so bored that the first thing I would do when I get home is I would have either beer or some kind of, I would actually make these fancy cocktails, even though I didn't enjoy it. It was like a hobby. I got into all these weird hobbies online, and it was just to pass the time. It was just because I was so unhappy and disassociated with my reality and my life there that I just found ways to check out.
So what was your background that got you into that particular role in that job?
My major was social science, so I studied psychology and, kind of all these random things. I did a business management minor, but the actual job was the fact that I was the only applicant who stood out during the interviews. My hiring manager, this guy named Chip, very American name, he said to me, I was the only one who didn't copy and paste my email to him. It seemed like I actually wrote him a personal email. I showed up on time and I was honest and open to him. I said, hey, I'm fresh out of college, I don't have any experience, but I'm really excited and I want to work for you. Yeah. And the fact that the person who came in to interview immediately before me happened to have such bad luck. I don't know if this is bad luck or this is him putting this negative energy on the world, but he had cut him off on the way there and flicked him off, not realizing the same time. And
never do that on the way to a job interview.
And part of it might be he was stressed. He thought he was getting late to work. Went to this interview, and maybe he has all these things going on in his life where he's stressed, and that's where that energy came from.
Sure.
But at the same time, and the odds of it being his potential boss, the person who's interviewing him, being the one that he cut off, was so small.
You might as well take a chance.
But at the same time, and the universe, somehow it comes back to you.
Yeah. So, after what, 18 months you're not enjoying this job.
Yeah, and I think I got very lucky that I had landed my dream job, the dream company, because if I was working my way up like a normal person, I would have thought once I work for this other company or I get a promotion, then I'll be happy and that'll go forever. But luckily, I had hit the dream and realized this was not for me.
Yeah. So very quick routes to disillusionment on this path. Yeah. So what did you do?
At first, I was just in limbo. I collected unemployment for a while. I moved cities, thinking that would make me happier.
So you just left the job?
I basically took the layoff. This was in 2007, 2008 when the economy was doing bad, and we had the choice. We can either take the layoff and we get $3,000. You know, to me at the time that was a lot of money. I was like, I could live off of that for 3 months, and I said, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to try. I'm going to try something else. And I think that's kind of what led me to deciding to go on that 12-week, actually at the time it was a 3-week vacation to Thailand. And that's where it all started.
So what happened when you got to Thailand?
I discovered scuba diving. And I was angry at the world for not telling me about this earlier. I remember watching Discovery Channel as a kid, National Geographic, thinking, wow, that is something for astronauts. That is something that not a normal person can do. This is something special. And when I walked past the dive center, not even expecting to do it, and I said, I would like to go tomorrow, and I showed up so uninformed and unprepared that I didn't even bring swim trunks. Because in my mind, I didn't even realize I was going to get wet. And this is how disillusioned I was. And I realized how much I loved it. I decided, let me do this. Let me work as a dive master, even though I had no experience. I decided I'm going to sell my car, that used Lexus I had at the time. I got $5,000 for it. Didn't even get the last. I think the guy couldn't afford to pay me up front, so he gave me $4,000, and he was promised to give me another $1,000. Never actually got it. And I didn't care. I said, this is enough to buy a plane ticket to Thailand, do my dive master training course, and intern as one for a few months, and then hopefully get a job.
And that was, you wanted to do that here in Thailand?
Because it's cold in the US and it's cold in England. You don't want to be in freezing cold water. You want that warm, tropical, clear water where tourists come, and it's fun. It was one of the best years of my life.
So how did you then get from doing that to being a digital nomad?
I ran out of money. I started hating my job. I loved it in the beginning, but when you're forced to take tourists out every single day and teach beginners over and over, it becomes very repetitious, and you start sharing their frustrations. You start getting annoyed.
What must that have been like for you? You've left this job, this treadmill in a cubicle. You've followed your dream of scuba diving, your new passion, and then that too has become another treadmill.
So that's actually the very first page of Life Changes Quick, my second book, where I thought I had discovered paradise. I thought I had just, I got out of the rat race. I thought I had achieved the dream. I had moved to a tropical, basically a tropical island where people go to retire and be happy. I had a dream job where all I did was hang out with tourists, go scuba diving, have beers with them, and watch sunsets, and I wasn't happy. And I realized, I was like, I think I built another prison around myself. The first was that cubicle, and the second was
paradise.
And I know some people listening to this might be angry, thinking you twat, just be happy. But what it was is I realized I couldn't get off the island, and I didn't have enough money to do anything else. I had to keep teaching diving, even though I was sick. Sometimes my ears would get infected from the warm tropical water, or I just didn't love it anymore.
So the lesson is we're not meant for repetition, are we really?
No, definitely not. I mean, especially when it's repetition at the very beginning levels. So imagine, you're a big car enthusiast. You want to race cars. You want to drive, a Porsche on the Autobahn. But your job is to teach student drivers. that you would get sick of very quickly.
Yeah. So, what was your next step?
I wrote a book. I wrote 12 Weeks in Thailand, which is my first book. Basically because I didn't know what else to do. I had a blog, My Fight Camp, which was just about my Muay Thai journeys. You know, I traveled around Thailand. I went to different gyms. And then I wrote a lot about, you know, the cost of living in Thailand in every different city, because it's a vast difference between living on the islands down in Phuket or up in Chiang Mai. So I wrote, you know, kind of very detailed cost breakdowns. I wrote about, you know, how to get a visa, you know, all these little things. And I realized that people kept asking me questions. And I would just reference them back to the blog and say, hey, just search the blog. But people are lazy. People want it all in one easy to read format. And I decided, why not just write a book? So originally I was going to just rehash the blog post into a chronological order or just something that made sense. But I ended up rewriting 90% of it anyways, just because I enjoyed the process. And that's my first step into being a digital nomad.
Mm-hmm. So how did you self-publish the book?
Yeah, self-published it that was on Lulu. My second book is on CreateSpace because it's owned by Amazon and figured it'd be easier.
Yeah, I went with CreateSpace for my novel. Seemed to work quite well.
What was the name of your novel again?
Human Plus.
I'll check that out.
Yeah. So you were still working as a dive master, right?
So when I had written the book, I had quit and I had decided to follow my second passion that I had discovered while living here, which is Muay Thai, which is a type of kickboxing. I was living at a gym, living very cheap. You know, my rent was $120 a month. You know, it's kind of middle of nowhere. And even though I was technically in Chiang Mai, I was far enough where I was only able to come into the city once every couple of weeks. And my life was, you know, it was pretty boring. You know, I didn't have enough money to travel. I didn't have enough money to really do anything. So I would train, and I would go back to my room and watch videos on YouTube. And that's when I wrote the book. I had time, I had free time, sat down, and it took off. I think I made $600 my first month, which I was very happy with. And I thought, you know what, that's exactly what I need to live in Thailand. Let me do this forever. And fortunately, that amount dropped to about 200, just because I think it was, you know, the initial launch. All the readers of my blog bought the book, you know, heard about it, and then it leveled off. So for that particular book, I've been making pretty consistently $200 a month from it ever since, and which is a nice passive income. But it's definitely not enough to live, even in Thailand, where it's the cheapest place in the world. So that forced me to figure out another way to make income.
So I read on your website something about dropship lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Was that the next step for you? This is a course, right? And it's a business model, I suppose. Yeah.
So at the time, it was actually named something ridiculous like the 4-hour millionaires training course, which sounded, you know, so seedy, and I never in a million years would have signed up for it. I wouldn't have paid $1,000 to join a course called that. But I was lucky where I met the guy in person. I actively started networking and meeting entrepreneurs and digital nomads because I wanted to learn how to sell more books. You know, I wanted their tips on internet marketing, on how to, you know, grow my $200 a month from my book to $600 so I can live. And that's a very small way of thinking, but that's my goal. That was my goal at the time. And I met this guy named Anton, and he was telling me, you know, about what he does. He has a bunch of drop shipping stores, and I didn't know what it meant. I never heard the concept, but basically what it is you become an authorized dealer for a product. So right now we're on a Blue Yeti USB microphone. Blue is the manufacturer. They sell this through Amazon, through Best Buy, through, you know, just, you know, local stores. But you can also become a dealer for them. And what's even better is you can, instead of buying inventory. So instead of saying, I want to buy 1,000 units, put it in my warehouse, and then ship it out or sell it to my customers, you can say, Blue, can you please just send the orders directly to my customer? And I don't know if a lot of electronic companies, like let's say, even Blue or Dell or Apple, they're probably not going to do it for you. But there's a lot of products out there with small manufacturers that, they'll take business from anyone. They're very happy to, as long as you're selling items, they're happy to send it directly to the customer, because at the end of the day, it's not that much more work than sending it to you.
So you put the order in for the customer, effectively.
Yeah. So I didn't know much about it, but it didn't even really hit me for a few days. I think, I was so focused on selling more books and making, $600 a month that I didn't think of the big picture. So I left it for a while. And then one day, I think I just woke up. I just realized, I said, this sounds like a very legitimate way to do business. So I messaged Anton and said, can you teach me about how to start a store? And he said, what, I just happened to have launched this 4-hour, millionaire course. And I didn't even think of the name because I had known him now for a while. And I was like, he's a very legitimate guy and I've seen him be successful. So I said, yeah, I'll sign up for that.
He's based here in Chiang Mai.
So now he's in Saigon. He was here for a while. And so we pretty quickly became good friends, especially because he was the first person to really teach me a skill, and something that was viable. So it took me about 2 months to set up my first site, but as soon as I did, I started replacing my income. The very first month that I started making sales, I think I made about $1,000. And in Thailand, $1,000 is 30,000 baht, and it's more than enough to live out here. My rent at the time was, less than $200 a month. And I didn't have that many expenses. I was eating Thai food for $1 or $2, and I was very happy.
And this is with dropshipping? This
was dropshipping. And so he's renamed the course now. Now it's Anton Method. So I write about it a lot on my blog. If you just search, if you go to my blog, Johnny FD, I basically documented the whole thing. And what's funny about that blog is it started as johnnyfd.blogspot.com, which is the free blogger version. And I just started documenting and said, I was so excited. I said, I made my first sale. I'm so happy. I'm going to retire, making $1,000 a month. And I was so excited. I just wanted to share it with everyone. I think it took me almost 6 months to actually buy johnnyfd.com. And just because a friend, he just kept, bugging. He said, it's available. Just buy it. It's only $10.
So what So what was your first business?
So my first dropshipping store was a furniture based business, and I had randomly just thought of it. It took me almost 2 weeks to think of different niches. At first, you use his examples that he teaches in the course, and you're like, oh, I should do that as well. And then, even though he specifically says don't use these examples because everyone else is going to do it as well. And I just started, brainstorming. I started asking all my friends and relatives, and what have you bought in the last 6 months that cost over $200? What have you bought online? And I started going through my old emails, and I just basically searched orders or confirmation in my inbox, all my old email addresses. And I was like, what have I bought online? What can I do better? And every day at 3:30 p.m., I would think of something. And I'd be like, this is it. This is what I'm going to sell. But luckily, at 4 o'clock was my gym session, and it forced me to think about it at least for a few hours, if not overnight. And I think eventually I was just like, you know what? This is still a random, a random piece of furniture, but it's something that I remember I personally had bought right out of college, and I couldn't find it in stores, and I had to buy it online. And I did a Google search, and I was like, you know what? It doesn't look like these guys have updated their websites in 10 years. I can go in and, maybe I can do well. And that's been my niche selection criteria since that. And now I've opened a few stores. Me and my girlfriend just opened a new one about a month and a half ago. And we don't do any fancy keyword research or anything like that. We don't look at anything besides is this something that I've bought or a friend has bought? Is this something that people need to buy? Why wouldn't they buy from us? And if there is a website already, a competitor that has a beautiful website that looks like they have good customer service and it's been updated, I won't go into that niche. But if it's something that looks pretty dated, if they're using a Yahoo store still, or they have email us at AOL.com email still, or anything that I figure I can add some value to, then that's what I go into.
Right. And I think I read on your site that it took you just 2 months to replace your previous income.
Yeah, so it took me 2 months to start making sales. And the hard part is for the first 2 months, you're going through this course, you spend a lot of money on it. You're not really spending much money after that, because all you really do is buy a domain for $10, and you buy a month of hosting for your store, and it's $30, and
then you build the site.
So none of it really costs any money. I think I wrote a post called pretty recently called "Total Cost to Start Up a Dropshipping Store," and it wasn't much, but the time, you're used to trading your time for money. I at the time I valued my time at $10 an hour. I said, this is what I would make if I had a job. Why am I not getting this? I'm just working for free. And you don't know how long you're going to do this until you make a sale. But luckily, almost everyone who sticks with it, it's about that 2 month point. Some people can do it a little bit faster. Most people take 2 months or 3 months. But once you get it, it's pretty consistent. Now it's been up for at least, I think, exactly a year and a half now. And there's not been a month where I've made less than $1,000 from it. My best month would be, I think it was $5,000 in profit from that one store.
But you have a few online stores now.
Yeah, and what's nice about it is you can just duplicate it. I mean, you can just pick a different niche. So let's say your first store was all about podcastmics.co.uk. Your next store can be all about dishwashers.co.uk. And they're separate products, but the process is the same.
It's almost like you're building a brand, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So you also have your own podcast and you do coaching. Can you tell me a bit about what those are all about?
Yeah, so I don't enjoy coaching, so I don't advertise that. I only have a link to it because a lot of people ask. They're like, Johnny, can you show me how to do this? And I say, look, I took the course just like everyone else. Like, he's going to be able to answer it a lot better than I can. And honestly, I don't have the time to hold someone's hand for two months during the process. But that's, I think that's actually why Anton created the course as well, because his friends and people just kept bugging him, and he's like, let me just document the whole thing. But my podcast is Travel Like a Boss, and the reason why I started that is I started meeting a lot of entrepreneurs and digital nomads here in Chiang Mai and while traveling, and I never really had an excuse to sit down with them for an hour and pick their brains about what they do for business or how they make it work. For example, if it wasn't for being on this podcast, we probably wouldn't have talked for an hour on the back end of the business. We might have chatted for 5 or 10 minutes, but this gives us a medium to really dig deep. And then podcasts, I figured, is a way for me to learn myself, but also share it with other people.
Mm-hmm. So you are now based in Chiang Mai.
Mm-hmm.
Is Chiang Mai the best place for digital nomads, do you think?
Yes.
Why is that?
It's a great combination of very low cost of living. You can get by for $600 a month. You can live very well for $1,000 a month. And if your budget was $1,500, and this is US dollars, it's almost impossible to spend that much. I really try sometimes to spend more than $1,000, and it's hard, So you have money left over. It just allows you to build up that buffer, that savings. But more importantly, it's a very easy place to travel from. So directly from Chiang Mai, I can fly down to the islands and go scuba diving, or I can fly to Taiwan. I can fly to from Bangkok, which is an hour away. We can fly internationally anywhere. So, in the last year, I've been to a lot of European countries, Berlin and Prague, but I've also been to South Africa. I've been to Vietnam. I've been to Cambodia. It just allows me to live here, save money when I'm not traveling, have a really good community around me of other digital nomads. I mean, the fact that we got 150 people to show up to an event, an all-day event.
I was amazed. There's so many there in the audience.
I mean, we couldn't even do that in San Francisco. And San Francisco is known as the Silicon Valley. And I guarantee if I had 10 days to get 150 people in San Francisco to show up, it wouldn't have happened. But here, people are hungry for it.
Yeah. And so what advice would you give to people coming here if they want to join the community here?
The easiest way is to show up and join a co-working space. I work at a place called Pun Space, but now there's a bunch of them. And it's funny because almost daily now, somebody comes up to me and says, hey Johnny, I wanted to thank you for your podcast, or I read your book. I made the move. I'm so excited to be here and to get started. And I always say, oh, welcome. How long are you here for? Very nice to meet you. And I sometimes forget that for me, it's such a common occurrence. And because I've been living here and I know how easy it is to live here, it's not a big deal. But often I'm meeting these people who had just quit their jobs or sold their stuff and moved halfway around the world, and they are so excited. And I almost,
it's like they've just got out of prison.
It really is,
Whereas you've been out a few years now.
And I feel bad that I don't share the same excitement for them sometimes. I'm just like, yeah, cool, man. Let's grab lunch later, or let's hang out. And in their minds are like, I want to meet everyone right now. I want to do everything. And I think people will quickly realize that even this is kind of a disillusion, where it's not as hard as people thought it to be. And life is great out here, but it's still normal life. It's just a cheaper life. We're surrounded with less stress, better weather, great food. So it's still life, but it's a better life.
You're not getting jaded out here, are you?
No, I love it. I really do.
What would you do if you did? What would you do?
I would move.
Yeah, just.
I mean, I'm in a position now where I'm so fortunate, where I have the location independent freedom, where I can literally pack my laptop and a backpack or two and just to move literally to any country I want. And I wouldn't lose much. I mean, I'm sitting in a nice condo with washing machine and a flat screen TV and a fridge and a couch, but I don't own any of this. I just rent it. So if I needed to, I could leave tomorrow. I don't want to because I love Chiang Mai. I really, really like it here, especially as a home base. I like traveling. So last week, I spent the whole week down in Khao Lak, which is the Similan Islands. And I was on a boat where you basically eat, sleep, and dive. So you wake up, go diving, come back, and breakfast is made. You lay on the sun deck for an hour, go for a second dive, come back, have lunch, rest, lay in the hammock on the boat, and read for a few hours, listen to a podcast, and you go for your third dive before dinner. And at night, we sit around, we played Monopoly on the boat, and we did that for 3 days and 3 nights, and I really, really enjoyed it, especially knowing that when I would return from the trip, that I would still have a business, and if anything, I would have made sales while I was gone. And my goal was to be able to cover the whole cost of the trip while I was underwater on this boat without Wi-Fi.
So what are you, what's next for you? Have you got particular future goals that you want to do?
So,
another thing as well, when we speak about goals, is that this lifestyle is about freeing up time for yourself. I mean, there's a book that's sort of one of the Bibles of this lifestyle, which is the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, which the idea is to free up time so that you can do other things that you love doing, right?
So it took me a long time to hire my first VA, but now I have 2. And
what's VA is?
A virtual assistant. So they're Filipino workers who get paid between $2 to $4 an hour, and they basically run my day-to-day business. They do all my accounting, my invoicing, do all my editing. And I have another person in the US who answers phone calls and does all the customer service. I pay him a lot more really not that much. I pay him $180 a month to answer all my business calls because I want someone in the U.S. who's on U.S. time that speaks American English to take care of that. That way customers feel secure. And aside from that, I mean, I don't spend that much time on my actual dropshipping stores, which gives me a lot of time to do other things I enjoy doing, to do the podcast, to put on the summit, to write these books. I mean, it's insane the amount of free time that you have now compared to when you have a normal job back home, especially in the U.S., where you might work from 8 to 5. You get home, you're tired because you have an hour commute or even a 30-minute drive, and then you have responsibilities. You have to do laundry, you have to clean your house, you have to pay bills. Here you don't have to do any of that. You can literally drop your laundry off downstairs for $1 a kilo so maybe $2 a week to do your laundry. Somebody will clean your room whenever you want. All meal you can eat out 21 meals a week for less money than you would eating at home. Everything's taken care of, and you have literally no responsibilities. So you have so much time to pursue your other passions and learn. And I think that's the only reason why I've been able to do so much. My friends back home, they have maybe one day a week where they can do something else besides work or responsibilities. And maybe not a whole day. Maybe they have 4 hours an entire week to do it. I literally have 40 hours a week to do something else, and whether that be, listen to podcasts while getting a massage, or going for a hike or building another business.